Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OurScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, the weekly podcast of OurScoop.com, the authority on Temple athletics. I am your host, OurScoop.com editor John DiCarlo. Our steady, sure, intelligent, wise, measured, handsome staff writers, Ryan Mack and Colin Schofield, are with us today.
We're handsome, John?
Of course I do.
Oh, you're so sweet.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Nobody's paying me to say that. Nobody's paying me to say that's just how I feel.
So kind.
Another handsome, esteemed gentleman, Kyle Gauss, our assistant editor. Hopefully will be able to join us a little bit later. This is a packed episode. A ton of stuff to get to, mainly thanks to all of you from your mailbag questions. I think we've got like 15 of them. So we've got a lot to get to. As you know by now, Temple is now 3-2 after a 27-21 come-from-behind win over UTSA last Saturday. Now a 5-0 Navy team is coming to town, and we'll tell you what we think of the game. I think Temple could, or maybe even should, win this game. I don't know how Colin Schofield's going to feel. This is the Conflict of Interest Bowl for Colin. We'll get to that in a second. I think we could say at the very least, I don't want to speak for everyone else because I think that we've done a good job. I think we're all 5-0 on predictions, right? I think we all predicted win over UMass, win over Howard, losses to Georgia Tech and Oklahoma. And then I think we all picked Temple to beat UTSA, right? So I think we're 5-0 on predictions. I think this will be our first week where maybe it gets a little dicey. We'll see what pulls at Colin's heartstrings. But at the very least, we'll tell you why we think that Temple has a good shot at beating this undefeated midshipman team on Saturday at 4 p.m. in that homecoming game at Lincoln Financial Field. I don't think a Phillies game is going to be a problem this coming weekend because they're just not a good baseball team in the playoffs. So we've got a packed mailbag to get to, about 15 mailbag questions, as I said. So a lot of cool stuff to get to there. We appreciate you guys chiming in. It helps us really set the agenda for the day. Kyle will give you a sneak peek of what's going on with Temple's 2026 football recruiting class and a standout player among that group with his recruiting roundup. So again, a great show ahead for you. The Scoop, as always, is brought to you by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road or the highway, the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company will not be on your side. You need us, Temple Law grads, will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win. So in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today at 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. That's greenspans-law.com. As we do every week, I want to remind you guys that now is the perfect time to join Al Scoop and get access to all the information on recruiting, the continued position battles across the season, and much more. As we said last week, we're getting to that time where basketball and football intersect. A lot of recruiting stuff. National Signing Day is going to be here before you know it. So it's always a great time to subscribe to AlScoop.com. Join Al Scoop now for $1 on your first week and enjoy a complimentary year of The Athletic included with your membership. So again, join Al Scoop now for $1, paying just $1 for your first week, and a complimentary year of The Athletic. You can't beat that deal. So take advantage of it. Go to alscoop.com. You'll see that subscribe button, and we are going to make sure that we make it worth your time. Colin, do you want to explain why Saturday is the Conflict of Interest Bowl for you?
In John's mind, Saturday is the Conflict of Interest Bowl for me because I am from Annapolis, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
My dad works with the Naval Academy. I grew up going to Navy games, and
I mean, this is the perfect time for our esteemed assistant editor Kyle Gauss to be joining us, because if I don't give you a hard enough time, Kyle will. Kyle, we're talking about the fact that Saturday's game is the Conflict of Interest Bowl for one Colin Joseph Schofield.
I know. I listened in on the presser availability for Navy's coach this week, and I saw Colin get introduced as Annapolis native but current Temple student.
No way.
Okay. Yeah, that's how the Navy SID is one of my dad's good friends. So he knows who I am. So
this runs deep.
Like that.
This conflict of interest runs deep.
How about Kyle's timing? See, I didn't get a chance. I'll be on tomorrow's pressers, but I didn't get a chance to be on that one. That's why Kyle, he just knows.
I'm everywhere. Kudos to Colin for calling in.
Yeah, he's putting in the work. You think
I
you should
also
be
like
a-
that I can see Colin and Ryan this week. I like
Yeah.
it better this way.
Yeah. Do you think you should be allowed to cover Saturday's game?
I think I should be allowed. I never. Yes, I think I should be allowed. I don't. I
I
never
heard some
like.
hesitation in your voice.
I think you should have to deliver the ball to midfield. You
Like
come
drop it,
paratrooping in.
like airdrop in to deliver the ball. Kyle?
Yeah.
I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that.
I mean, were you scared of heights? Are you
I'm not scared, I'm
anti-height?
not scared of heights, but I don't know how badly I want to jump out of a plane or
I've jumped
however
out
I
of a
get
plane.
down there. It's not on my bucket list.
You
I've jumped
did,
out of a
you-
plane. I've
you
jumped out of a
did?
plane from a place that like 2 years beforehand somebody died at, and then 2 years later somebody died at.
Oh wow.
Wow.
And each time they just slapped a coat of paint on it, changed the name, and said, "Come on out."
Oh my God. Wait, when was this?
Meg's 30th, so 2020, 2019 might have been. No, I'm sorry, it was my brother's 30th, so 2017. Me, Meg, and Chris jumped out of a plane.
Oh, I think I vaguely remember this.
I have the video somewhere. It was cool. I jumped out of a plane with one of my brother's friends who had never been on a flight. So he's taken off from a plane and never landed on a plane because the only flight he's ever been on, he jumped out of.
That's amazing.
That's
Wow.
That's what.
What was your level of fear before you jumped out, or were you just like,
No, I wasn't afraid.
you don't get scared?
That's
I
great.
get scared. I get scared of playing things, but not really. That wasn't really one of them.
What is
You're
your
also
biggest?
strapped onto a 240-pound dude that's not gonna like let you back out. So,
What's your biggest fear? Should we talk about our biggest fears before we get into the rest of the pod?
commitment.
Oh,
What? How should we tell Meg that?
I should tell my wife of 10 years that I'm just terrified of commitment.
and your 2 children.
I fear defending the triple option.
Mm.
It keeps me up at night.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What a segue, Kyle.
Perfect
That's a
segue.
great segue.
Did we? I'm sorry, I joined the party late. Did we already talk about UTSA?
Not yet, but we are about to now, Kyle. You chime in, letting everyone know that Colin was introduced as a friend of the program, essentially, and then you provide us with a great segue. So
The tone was that Colin is essentially a mole. Like that's what it was put up. Like, hey, we pulled him back from the enemy lines. Here he is. Gets
Yeah.
an answer from Colin.
I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I wasn't expecting to be introduced like that, but
bigger Colin Mole, Colin Schofield or Colin Thompson?
Mm.
Ooh.
Because I think Colin Thompson's he's a volunteer assistant coach. I don't know that he's with the team on game day.
I think Colin Thompson might be a bigger mole.
Do you think we could see Colin Thompson with fake glasses and a mustache? Like, Colin, what's up,
Oh,
buddy?
Bobby Valentine.
That's not me.
Are we talking NL East baseball yet?
I made a
Meg
took
went to the
passage.
game. Meg pulls me aside like 2 p.m. Like, are you okay if I go to the game tonight? I said, sure. So she slapped down $200 or whatever for nosebleeds with her friends. And then
what a waste of money.
what a waste of
Love
money.
Meg, but
She said there was about an inning and a half where it was an awesome experience.
I said without even knowing if there's a game 5, which there won't be, I would bet my mortgage on it. If there's a game 5, I don't know if it will be next Saturday, but I said next Saturday.
It will be. If
Should
there was
not
game
be.
5, it's Saturday.
I said there should not be a problem with Philly's traffic because they're not getting a game 5.
Yeah, I think I think Ranger Suarez has to be injured because I think once you decide to start Aaron Nola in game 3, you're just waving the white flag anyway.
Yeah, it's bizarre. But Colin could be the ultimate troll. He really could be the ultimate troll over this past week. He and Ryan went to game 3 of the Yankees Red Sox series. Ryan is a Red Sox fan. Colin is an Orioles fan. He at least a half dozen times in the Temple News office last week blasted Frank Sinatra's New York, New York. Also did it in the press box on Saturday. Ryan, honestly, dude, that's about as ticked off as I've ever seen you. I think he literally got up. I don't know if he had to get up because he had a cheesesteak or if he had to get up because he was like, I'm going to punch my friend in the face. And then Colin's Denver Broncos beat the Eagles. So, and then he could just be a, Phillies troll if he wanted to, like his.
Well, and then his coach, Sean Payton, is an ultimate troll. He decided to drive the team bus up Broad Street one more time. They played Meek Mill in the locker room. Sean Payton,
Yeah.
don't throw rocks in glass houses is all I'll say.
And I can add to this here because I beat another Owl Scoop member in fantasy football this week, winning $5.
You guys took a week by week, or was it a side bet?
It was a side bet. So,
Brian's
yeah.
not in a good mood right now.
It's been a really good, last few days for me for sports wise.
As your friend, I'm so happy that you're happy.
Thank you,
You
Ryan.
know,
Thank
I always just want the best for you, even if it may come at my expense.
See, that's
That
awesome.
was
I'm the opposite. It's not enough that I win. You two must lose. I want the worst for people.
well. Now we've gotten that out of the way. All of you know by now the Temple's 3-2 after its 27-21 win over UTSA that Kyle was talking about earlier. The Owls snapped their 2-game losing streak, gave themselves their first conference win in an opener since 2021. That was that 34-31 win over Memphis before things went completely and utterly off the rails for Rod Carey. One of the weirdest Temple seasons. People start thinking, hey, maybe the team is responding to him, and then they never won another game.
They beat that game. They won that game like they looked good too. Like DeJuan Mathis had like 300 some yards. After the game, Rod Carey got every member of that team a stitched football that said the beginning or the start or something. Like this is the start of the turnaround.
You couldn't.
He was fired like 6 weeks later. The footballs arrived, I think, after he was fired.
I mean, how classically awful is that? I mean, that's
That's one of those moments you're like, oh, I feel a little bad. Like
so bad, so
I
bad.
feel a little bad that you would. He probably paid for it himself. Get these out
Yeah.
there, and then
Yeah, probably tried to get a little refund in week 10 when he was like sending some people over to clean up that lake house in Wisconsin. Like, hey,
well, then he became Indiana's highest paid offensive coordinator for 2 months. So things are working out fine for Rod.
oh, he's just fine. He's just fine. This team, however, responds well to coaching. So
far, maybe this is the same situation.
ooh,
We don't know.
you'd hope not for
They're
them.
not
But
soothsayers.
so sometimes halftime speeches sound kind of cliche. This one appeared to have landed. Casey Keeler comes in, got emotional, and said the team responded. And he said this was the first time he walked into the locker room and said he was embarrassed for the first time to be their coach. Evan Simon said it was exactly what they needed to hear. So from there, they outscored UTSA 24-7 the rest of the way. And really, you saw a lot of what you'd want to see as a Temple fan, as a coach. So many of the players that they needed to stepped up with the guys who were injured. Lou Fry's out. Caton Supernaut was out. Who was the other safety? Javier Morton, I'm sorry, was out. So Jameer Jones with the interception there right before Hunter Smith's touchdown run. This comes on a day when Jay Ducker was really bottled up, 34 yards on 16 carries. So Hunter Smith, again, the guy that you wanted to pick up the slack with Therese Worthy leaving, pops off that 54-yard touchdown run, wasn't touched, completely untouched on the left side of the line. They had not opened up anything like that all day.
He's
And
the
again,
ninth fastest player in college football last week, right? On that run.
Yeah. And this is a guy who's coming off a PCL tear before the 2024 season. Casey Keeler now a few times.
I know what a PCL is. I'm definitely fully aware what a PCL is.
I
assume it's a bad injury. I couldn't point it out if they had like the skeleton with half his body exposed, like in biology, I couldn't go up and be like,
I believe it's ear cartilage. So it was a very, very damaging injury for them. No, in all seriousness, again, Casey Keeler's made that joke a few times now where it's like, we've gotten him off buffed out the dents, put a new coat of paint on him, just saying that they got a guy that was injured and, he rattles off a huge run there. So Kyle, before you hopped on, we were saying that we're 5-0. I think we're all 5-0 in predictions, right? I think we all predicted Temple to beat UMass and Howard.
We're 1-0. Like there were four obvious choices. We kind of all went out of a limb last week.
Well, before we get to talking about the Navy game, any lasting impressions of what you saw on Saturday? I have a few, but I want to pop it around the horn for you guys.
Yeah, did you guys see Casey Keeler's actual like halftime interview with the sideline reporter? It's the most pissed off I've ever seen Casey Keeler.
He said something after the game where he's like, I felt bad. I almost kind of like
it was like, so you're talking 20 minutes after the half ended or whatever. And he's still visibly pissed off when he's said the same thing. He's like, the first time I've ever been embarrassed for them. We either need to come out of this game with a win or we need to put something on tape to feel better about ourselves because it's unacceptable. And then they came out and did exactly that. I will say at halftime, I started to, because everything's about me, I started to think like, crap, I hope no UTSA people listen to the podcast because everything I said about their team has not been the case so far.
Yeah.
Like they looked good on defense, they looked good on offense. Temple wasn't really able to move the ball. you start to think about those, oh crap, like I think I said something like if they can't move the ball against this defense, those 50-50 games are not 50-50 games going forward. And then in the second half, it looked exactly like I thought it would look like. Like Owen McCallum, when you get pressure on him, he had some really questionable decisions. I know Trailer and his availability this week really did kind of like he kind of gave them some excuses and gave some bailouts for his quarterback, but he did not play well in the second half. They were finally able to get pressure. They were able to move the ball against a bad defense. So everything that kind of I thought was going to happen did happen, just took it to the second half. My biggest takeaways from a Temple perspective, Jameer Jones, big play for somebody that wasn't on the team 2 months ago. That wasn't playing college football 2 months ago. Like during the summer, he wasn't on a team. He wasn't in a program. And I think this is the first game this year where, like, I kind of feel like this sounds weird because he threw 6 touchdowns against UMass, but like this is the first time that I saw Evan Simon go up against like an equal team, and you're like, okay, like you can take this team to some places. Like he made some good throws. He got bailed out a couple times, but like I think he and I think the team and the offense in general have kind of come to that same conclusion that the Eagles have come to, except when you're playing the Broncos, apparently. Where like analytically, the best chance you have to win football is to not turn the ball over. Like that's it. Like you can be all like, oh, we want to run the ball and we want to do this and we want to take our shots. It comes down to don't make stupid decisions. Like don't turn the ball over and you're going to put yourself in a position to be successful most times eventually. And that's what they've done. They've had great ball security, and I don't think it's a small sample size anymore. You're almost halfway through the season and they're protecting the ball well.
Yeah, as Kyle's pointed out too, I think he was the first one. I know he was the first one to put out that stat that Temple, after Saturday, the only team in the FBS to not have a turnover, and this is also the longest streak in the program's history. And I had asked Evan Simon about that on Saturday, and he knocked on wood. I think Casey Keeler knocked on wood.
He knew he had been listening to the Taylor album the day before.
I'm going to pretend like I got that reference.
She has a song called Wood where it's all about. Never mind. But the
oh, all right.
The chorus that she says knock on wood, but she's not talking about wood.
Okay. Well, we'll save that for episode.
I was driving my daughter to daycare on Friday, and that song came on. And I said, Taylor Allison, there are children in this car, and you're singing these profane things.
I would say Jameer Jones' second underrated play of the day was his third down stop before Trailer decided to go for it. So he makes it like a 4th and 3 there. So I mean, he played a hell of a game at that Viper position, which is kind of like that safety linebacker hybrid spot. So Jameer Jones, Hunter Smith did really everything you could have asked from them. Ryan, Colin, what about you guys? What are your takeaways from Saturday's win?
I mean, you guys kind of hit on it. For me, like, kind of the biggest takeaway was, I mean, how well some of the depth pieces played without, especially on defense with some injuries, like Jameer Jones, like you guys just said, played really well. Hunter Smith had the big run, kind of in like more of that RB2 role without Terez Worthy. Some of the offensive weapons like Colin Chase, finally seemed like they got him going on offense for the first time this year. So just kind of like the depth of the team, I feel like really kind of showed itself against UTSA, which is something I think is like really encouraging moving forward against Navy and then the rest of American Conference play.
Yeah, just kind of going off on that, especially talk about the offensive pieces, especially like out of last year, kind of hinged on just like if Dante Wright could get the ball if he's not producing, they were stagnant. Like just being able to find like Colin Chase is kind of started to pop off. Peter Clark looked great. Second play of the third quarter when he dragged 3 defenders around on with him to probably at like 10 yards on that 36-yard line. That was great. Even though Georgia didn't have a touch in that first half, his touchdown kind of kickstarted things. Probably should have had a punt return for a touchdown in the first half. But like they have these playmakers that they've been able to show, and they've been able to finally get them the ball, which is that's cool. Jay Ducker's not playing well. Okay, Hunter Smith looked good, especially in that second half with that big run. So like honestly, just like the depth, and also just like this is the first time that we've seen Temple go down early. I mean, like we had that Utah State game last year, but go down early and them actually be able to fight back. Usually, time you see them go down, you kind of can predict the loss right away. So being able to fight adversity and all that was pretty nice to see.
One last guy I want to call out just because I know he only had 2 catches, but they were 2 big catches. Kajaya Hollowayne, for somebody that just converted to the position, his 2 catches were on 3rd and long. One was like pretty highly contested. Like he looked good.
Knows how to track the ball, kind of knows how to like just settle in space. I think he said quietly like a very, very important season for them. And Peter Clark, I mean, I asked him, I think after the game on Saturday, I said, did you think you'd be this much of a factor in the passing game? He's like, yeah, should I be the guy? I'm the biggest dude in the room. Should I, of course, I'm paraphrasing here. Should I be the guy that's run blocking? Yes. But he said, I'm also a big dude who should be able to get the
Yeah.
ball where Evan's putting it. And again, these guys, I think half of it's them, and I think half of it is the scheme. And things are really starting to look the way that you would want them to look after 5 games. They're 3-2. They are, Saturday showed you that there are signs of, learning something from those 2 losses.
Am I crazy to think that he might potentially be an NFL tight end?
No, I think I've thought about that over the last few weeks. I mean, if Steve Maneri and Chris Myrick get in as undrafted guys who can block, Peter Clark's already, again, he's playing a different offense, but he's already shown to be more of a downfield, pass catching threat than those 2 guys. So
I just tend to like envision him as like a Grant Calcaterra, where it's like if you lose a little bit of weight, like you're still like a bigger tight end,
Yeah.
but like and Peter Clark will be the first one to tell you this. He's a better athlete than you think he is when you look at 200 of his frame. Like he's a legitimate T1 athlete, and I wonder if there is like that next step to him.
If he ends up as Grant Calcaterra, he's a better. Well, it would sound like a goofy thing to say. I mean, the one knock on Grant Calcaterra is that he can't block. Not that the Eagles thought he was going to be a great blocking tight end, but I don't know if he can catch the ball like Grant Calcaterra and still bring that blocking ability. And
well, maybe he can play for the Eagles this weekend, or maybe he can play for the Eagles on Thursday.
Yeah,
because Calcaterra will be.
All right, Colin. Conflict of Interest Bowl is here. I know it's a tough week for you. How many times have you cried this week?
I would just like to point out I covered the same game last year, John.
That doesn't matter. It doesn't.
You're a man without a country.
Doesn't
Neither side wants you in this situation. They view you as the enemy.
Mhm.
I'm the enemy on both sides, Kyle.
Yeah, it's better than being the ally on both sides.
Trying to do a job here. I'm here to get a job done.
No, in all seriousness, you said that your dad's going to be in the press box on Saturday?
I talked to my dad yesterday, and I asked him if he's going to be in the press box, and he said him and his best friend, who I'm also very close with, will both be in the press box on Saturday. So
That's nice.
will be interesting for sure. That's exciting. But yeah,
That's very cool.
I guess in that aspect, there's a little bit of conflict of interest.
Oh, there absolutely is. There absolutely is. I still don't think that you should be there. I think it's ethically wrong, morally reprehensible. I don't know. Anyway, no. That'll be on all seriousness. That's a really, really cool thing. So Navy, the midshipmen, they're 5-0 after a 34-31 win over Air Force last Saturday. Blake Horvath having a hell of a season, put up monster numbers and becoming the Americans' Offensive Player of the Week, 20 for 26 for a career high 339 yards and 3 touchdowns. Those are not numbers that we ever typically associate with a Navy quarterback. Also ran for 130 yards and a 4th touchdown on 17 carries. Those 469 total yards set a program record. Eli Heidenreich. Again, these are names that I think one of the things that makes Navy dangerous is a lot of continuity here. These are names that if you're a Temple fan and you've watched Navy over the years against Temple, these are names that should sound familiar. Eli Heidenreich, 8 catches for another career high 243 yards and 3 touchdowns, including an 80-yarder. And yet, Navy still needed a 34-yard field goal from Nathan Kirkwood at the 6:47 mark of the 4th quarter to beat an Air Force team that's now 1-4. Defensively, they've got one of the Americans' best interior linemen in Landon Robinson, who had 7 tackles, 1.5 sacks. He has 5 sacks on the season. I think Casey Keeler talked about this. One of the biggest differences between UTSA and Navy's D linemen, or UTSA had a few like just big, gap plugging dudes, whereas Navy's D tackles are more athletic, can get upfield. So that's something to watch out for. They're 40th nationally in rushing defense. They've allowed 115.6 yards per game. Believe it or not, that's 1/10 of a point for where UTSA was entering last week's game. Navy's 37th nationally in scoring defense. They've allowed a little less than 20 points per game. They had a 52-7 win over VMI at the beginning of the season, a 21-13 win over Rice. Those wins have kind of helped that total, but they've also led 24 points to a UAB team that's winless in conference play, 31 points to that 1-4 Air Force team, and 23 points to a Tulsa team that's 2-3 overall and winless in league play. Before we start dissecting this game, I want to play a couple of clips here from Casey Keeler from Monday's presser. I asked Casey when was the last time you've seen a Navy quarterback throw the ball this much? And then I had followed up during his answer to ask him, is there any good that comes from that? And, typically this is not rocket science. When you play Navy, some of your best pass rushers have to completely change the way they play because they can't just straight up rush the passer. They have to be more disciplined. And then you hear all the cliches. You have to follow the ball. You have to be wary of all the sleight of hand stuff that they do. But this is a Navy team that Horvath didn't mix in those numbers because they fell behind like 28-0 and they just had to chuck the ball. This was incorporated as a part of their offense. So I asked Casey Keeler about that, and then I asked if there's anything good that can come from him dropping back, and this was his response.
I know you don't get to look at Navy every week over the last several years, but when was the last time you could remember them throwing the ball this much? It's not like Horvath, like it's not like they fell behind last week.
Yeah.
Scores, like they are incorporating it into what they do.
Yeah. I've never seen them throw the ball like this. I think they feel they have a really good receiver, and I think they feel the quarterback, is super talented. He's not maybe that guy who's going to shake you and take it for 80, but boy, he's athletic, and he throws the ball really well. And so I think they're smart. It's like, in that offense, boy, it's a lot of repetition, and you just come downhill, and you come downhill, and you come downhill, and then you come downhill, and they're behind you. So I think, they're playing to their strengths. Their strength is that, this kid can throw it. And what your hope is that historically, Navy has not been a great pass protection team. So what you have to do is you have to transition quickly from the run to the pass. And that's what you're hoping to do is you're trying to, in that transition, you're trying to get some pressure on him and get some hits on him. But when I saw the stats, I'm like, who are we playing this week? That does not look like the triple option I remember. But they're very traditional. They still line up in the same stuff and run it, but they've been a little bit more aggressive in their passing game.
Does that at all help you attack, or if they are going to be dropping back a little bit more?
Yeah, I think so. I think what makes them so good is, they're so good on first down. And when you're that good on first down, you put yourself in a lot of second and third and fourth and manageables and makeables. And so, if you want to wing it around and go a lot of second and tens, I'm good with that. So I think there's a fine line. I think it's one of those when they get a rhythm, they're going to throw the ball. I think if they're not in rhythm, he's not going to throw the football. So, it's one of those take what they give you. They will test us now. There's no question they'll test us. And one of the things we've been working really hard on is, keeping your eyes on your responsibility. Don't drift, because that's how they get you, And when we're out there, a lot of times when we practice without a football. I don't care if the fullback has the ball or not, we're tackling them. I don't care if the quarterback has the ball or not, we're tackling them. I don't care if the pitchman has the ball or not, we're tackling them. I mean, if that's your responsibility, don't be guessing. Because it's amazing how good they are. All of a sudden, little sleight of hand, that ball's not in the fullback's belly, and the quarterbacks keep it, and you're diving on the fullback when the quarterback kept it. Just do your job. Know your job, do your job. And that's kind of been a big theme of ours lately, knowing your job and doing your job.
Is there anything good that comes from them throwing the ball? He's only been sacked once. Now that's kind of a deceptive total because he can move, and they have a lot of plays that are designed for him to get out in space. He's not just this pocket quarterback. But if you believe in Temple's defensive line and this, front seven, whatever they're doing, is there an advantage to him dropping back at some point?
Yeah, I think this is a far cry from the Ken Niumatalolo offenses where they were running 60 yards a game. And other than that one season with Will Worth, where Temple beat them in the conference championship, for the most part, they just wanted to run the ball. There is definitely an advantage to that. Because I think if you asked a salt and pepper, gray-haired person, how do you defend the triple option, they're we'll just tackle every single person and go from there.
He's talking about me, guys.
But once you mix in some passing aspects, it increases the odds of turnovers. The old cliche is, boy, every time you throw the ball, three things can happen. Two of them are bad. Turnovers can happen more often in the passing game than rushing game. I think if they weren't good at it, there'd be advantages to that, but they're good at it. This is a better offense than it has been in years past. I don't know if we want to get into how weak their schedule has been yet, or if you want me to just answer this question. But to answer this question, I think there are it's wrinkles. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. Like it's something else to account for, but it does also present the opportunity for you to kind of force issues more often than if they were just going to do 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Another thing I asked Casey Keeler about was the run blocking. We referenced the fact that Jay Ducker, it was Hunter Smith who popped off that run, but I didn't see a whole lot of room for Jay Ducker to run.
Right.
Now, Casey Keeler might see it a tad differently. I asked him later on in his presser on Monday, I said, what was not working for the offensive line with the run blocking before Hunter Smith's run? And this was his response.
Before Hunter broke off that run, what was not, when you look back at Saturday, what was not working for you guys in terms of the block?
Yeah, I know. I'm probably not going to say. So there's some things that when we looked at the tape were like, yeah, those numbers shouldn't have ended up being those numbers. But again, let's let those guys at the Naval Academy figure that out. But I think we all felt that it wasn't that we didn't have some things blocked up. It's just that we didn't execute a couple parts of the offense the way we should have executed it.
Ryan and Colin have to hop off. Ryan's not going to be able to hop back on. Colin will be able to hop back on. They have some Philadelphia Inquirer business to attend to. A little bit of a flex there for those guys. Prediction time. We're going to go prediction time early, but we're not done analyzing this game. Ryan Mack, putting you on the spot.
There you go.
Who wins this game on Saturday and why?
I want to be optimistic again, and I do think this game is going to be close, but I do think Navy comes out with a win. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I just don't think Temple will be able to run the ball on Navy. I think that Temple's rush defense looked better against Robert Henry Jr. last week against UTSA, and I think they'll have a little bit of success against Navy. I just don't think it'll be great, and I just have a gut feeling that Navy's going to be able to come out and pull out a win. But a close, low-scoring game. I'm going to go 21-17.
21-17. Colin, what's your prediction?
For me,
You
like
can see him. God, he's conflicted here.
I've gone both ways.
Your eyes are glazed over a little bit. It's okay.
Glazed over. Bless you.
Thank you.
Second consecutive podcast where Ryan has sneezed. He's got a sneeze streak on.
Gotta work these kinks out, Ryan.
Yeah.
I think I'm more on the side with Ryan, where I think it's gonna be closer than some people might think, with an undefeated Navy team that has looked good against, granted, a pretty poor schedule. I think it's gonna be tough for Temple to run the ball, and I think you add in like how much Navy threw the ball against Air Force, it might throw in some different wrinkles again, like for Temple's defense, with Horvath and Heidenreich. I think Navy pulls out like a really close win. I'm gonna go a little more high scoring, I think. I'm gonna say 31-27 Navy.
All right. Kyle?
I think people are caught up entirely on the 5-0 record.
Mhm.
When if Temple played this schedule, Temple would be 5-0. There are 136 FBS teams. What rank do you think the strength of schedule is?
129.
136th. It's they played the
wow.
easiest schedule in the nation so far. To show how easy of a schedule this was, between the 5 teams they've won, 4 combined FBS wins against FBS opponents. They are 4-13, I believe. The VMI FCS team that they beat, obviously 0-1 against FBS opponents, 0-3 against FCS opponents. Their only win is a D3 win. They have beaten, like, if you care about ESPN FPI Football Power Index, Navy has beaten the 125th, the 128th, the 117th, the 103rd at an FCS program this year. They have played literally nobody. Like, I understand coach speak is coach speak. I don't think it's an exaggeration whatsoever when Brian Newberry on his press conference this week said multiple times Temple is the best team we've played this year. Like, they said that they're the best most well-rounded. This is a considerable step up in competition than what Navy has played so far. And I know that sounds insane when Navy won 10 games last year and beat Oklahoma in a bowl game and like really looks like it's on the right track and like things are kind of back to what they were in 2016, 2017. But this year, this team has not done anything to justify that. Like you said, they mentioned, or they needed a field goal to beat a bad Air Force team, an Air Force team whose only win is over Bucknell. I think Temple wins this game. I really do. And I think if they win this game, you can like kind of squint your eyes and go, okay, If they win this game, book your bowl tickets. Like if they start off 4-2, I think they're gonna make bowl eligibility, like pretty soundly. I wonder if maybe they go to like all of a sudden this season like a 7, 8, 9 win season as opposed to a 4, 5, 6 win season. But I think they win this game. If you take away the VMI game, like opponents are rushing, they're averaging like 4 yards a rush against Navy. Like you can run against them. I also think you can throw against them. This is going to be the game plan for this for me is the same as it was against UTSA, where if you can avoid explosives, which is obviously easier said than done, if you can kind of hold them just to like, yeah, get your 3, 4 yards, and yeah, there's going to be times when they're going to have 15 play drives. There is like that's what it is when you play a service academy. As long as you avoid 15 play drive, then we give it back to them in 3 and out, and then Navy right after that hits like a 75-yard time where you're just not like sound and you miss your gap and all that, then I think Temple is still going to be in this game. I think they win this 31-24. I would go higher, but I just think that like you're not going to get 20 drives this game. It's going to be just you have to take advantage of the opportunities when they present themselves.
Yeah, I'd written down 28-24. Yeah, I think it's like a 28-17 Temple lead going into the fourth quarter, and then maybe Tyler Walker tries to, like, if he can, salt away this game. Maybe Temple hits a little bit of a late snag offensively, but you're not trying to like keep throwing the ball and giving it back to them. I think they win too. You mentioned VMI, you mentioned Air Force. They've played 3 conference games already against UAB, at Tulsa, at Rice. So they've knocked out 3 of the easier opponents to date.
2 of which Temple, I'm sure, really wishes was on its schedule. Like Rice and UAB, if they were on the schedule, then you're like Temple's winning 8 games this year.
Yes. They're also not getting Memphis too and
or USF.
Yeah. So it kind of evens out. But
that's why that end of this Newberry talked about this week is like people are really focused on our November schedule because they go at North Texas. This is 4 straight weeks at North Texas, at Notre Dame, South Florida at home, at Memphis.
Yeah,
so brutal. There's 4 losses right there, like most likely. I mean, it's Navy, so they'll probably win one of them just because they're anomalies. But yeah, I just think they win this game.
I do too. I think this is a team that is actually learning and growing and developing. And look, I don't want to say hate. I think that halftime adjustments, halftime speeches, what did you say to the team at halftime? It could be one of the top 5 most cliche questions of all time. And I think Casey Keeler is good for a good story or two and being wistful. But Evan Simon mentioned it. He said it's exactly what we needed to hear. Sultan Badmus, who might become one of Kyle Gauss's good guys, because he also mentioned in his presser yesterday, he said, "Hey man, they practice right on the water. I really love that." That's a happy place quote for you.
I love that town.
Yeah.
I think Temple's getting healthy at the right time. A position that was like weak 2 weeks ago, safety. Now you're talking like you get like 5 guys. You probably feel pretty good rotating at those 2 safety spots, and that's so important against a team like Navy. Yeah,
Jameer Jones is a great story there, and he did exactly what you're supposed to. To go back to UTSA for a second, props to McCown. He's had a nice college career, but he's not an NFL quarterback.
The ball was up there.
It was up there. That's a good safety. He says, "I'm getting this," and he came right in, plucked it out of the air. Big play there. Hunter Smith goes for 54 yards. Those are all the sequences that we have not seen from Temple in 5 seasons.
That exact throw the last 3 years ends up with a Temple player smashing their hands on the ground because they dropped an interception.
Yeah.
That was just too common of a sight for the last 3 years, and Jameer Jones just played it like a center fielder and got the ball.
I don't see why Temple couldn't or even shouldn't win this game. I know it's a different offense, there's no question, but I do believe that defensive front has to feel confident after doing what they did to Robert Henry, because that's what you wanted to do. I mean, props to Robert Henry Jr. He's, barring an injury, will probably be maybe a day 2, day 3 draft pick. We'll see, but he's really good. But it's easier said than done if you can avoid the explosives. And God knows he had one in every single game, 74-yard run, 76-yard run, a 75-yard touchdown reception. If you can eliminate that, they mix in another back. And that's exactly what they did. 12 carries, 42 yards. Different offense, but seeing is believing. And sometimes coaches will say, well, sometimes it can be a little easier to coach after a loss because the guys are down, you can get through. It's a hell of a lot more fun to coach after a win. And I think that when the coaches are saying, know your job, do your job, and then you do it and you think, oh, wow, we listen to the coaches and that works. Might work again this week. Again, Navy will have a couple of scoring drives. If you shut out Navy, that's a hell of a feat. They're not doing that, but
Tulane did it last year.
they did, yeah.
Yeah.
But looking at the schedule, looking at some of the stats, there's a mailbag question about this later. Maybe this is the week that JoJo Bermudez finally doesn't have a punt return touchdown call back. The opportunity is there to win this game. If you were thinking optimistically and realistically, equal parts optimism and realism, this is the season you would have scripted. You blow out UMass, you blow out Howard, you get beaten around by Oklahoma, and then you hope you learn from that and you play better against Georgia Tech, which you did. And that could have been a one-score. It could have stayed a one-score game. Then you apply what you learned at UTSA and beat UTSA and come back. I don't see why they can't win this game. I see it being a 28-24 win, and they're up 28-17 at some point. I think that the defense could be ready, should be ready. You can look at some of the keys that you would always look at in playing Navy, limiting them on first down. They're constantly dealing with a 2nd and 2 because of a successful fullback dive or Horvath run, and you're like, then it's going to be a long day. Why can't they run the ball on them? Now, I'll be interested to see what Casey Keeler, he was dropping a hint there in that clip earlier. I think he didn't want to expose some of their flaws, but it seemed to be like, yeah, we can fix this.
Right.
This might be a week that Temple's offensive line is looking forward to. They've got some good players on defense. They've got one of the better interior linemen in the league, but these are different guys that they could maybe get their hands on and move in the run game. If you're Sekou Chroma and you're healthy and you're going to work past your shoulder injury and play, if you're Cameron Stewart, if you're Sultan Badmus, if you're a couple of the linebackers, if you're able to hit Haynes King and if you're able to hit John Mateer, tell me why they can't hit Blake Horvath.
Yeah.
They're 5-0. They do what they do really well. We say the same thing about Navy every year. They're a fun team to watch, but I think this is a winnable game. I think they win this game.
No, I think you make a good point where, look, ideally, I think everyone would like to start 5-0, right? Like if you ask any Temple fan, would you rather be 3-2 with 2 bad losses or 1.5 bad loss, or 5-0? They'd all choose 5-0. But those 2 losses really exposed Temple to quarterbacks that, like you say, if you can get on Haynes King, if you can get on John Mateer, then why can't you get on Blake Horvath? Like, you've shown success there. I think other than obviously most of the Oklahoma game and that first half even just that first quarter against Georgia Tech, like I feel a lot better about Brian Smith's defense now after UTSA than I did 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Like I think they really showed. I think fans and look, neither you or I have put on pads and sat there at halftime in the middle of an FBS football game, like in a locker room. But I think fans tend to think that halftime adjustments are like, all right, on the board, we're doing A, B, and C, and you're in now, and scream at that, and everyone's super focused. In reality, it's like take a piss, take a crap, eat a Lunchable, get yelled at for a couple minutes, get back out there and go to the game plan. Like everyone I've ever talked to is like, it's very rare that there's actual like schematical adjustments that much. There might be for the coaches for sure, like up in the like, okay, we're doing this now, let's try something else. We have more opportunity to look at tape. But for our players, it just comes back down to game plan and like your fundamentals and your training. And I think what they showed in that second half of offensively and defensively getting back on the same page, just going back to what their game plan was. Casey Keeler talked about in his press conference today. They didn't get back into the game by pulling trick plays out of their ass and then all of a sudden like, we stole 14 points and now we're back in this. They forced turnovers, they got to McCown, and they played good, solid complementary offense. You do that against Navy, then you're sitting at 4-2.
Every once in a while he'll make a point and it might be the simplest thing, but you say, yeah, that makes sense. And gosh, it sounds like a guy who's won 3 FCS national championships and has been doing this for a long time. That point he made about the trick plays, again, it's very simple, but he said, if we run a trick play and it falls flat, that can really be a huge dispirit. He didn't use the word dispiriting, but it could be that type of thing where you try a trick play and it doesn't work. And you're like, we tried pulling that out of the bag. That didn't work. They kept coming back with what worked. Now watch them go run 2 trick plays this.
Sure. Yeah.
This
they're going to have to at some point. Because sometimes you do it just to put it on film. One other aspect, just to put a bow on this that we haven't talked about. You talked about there's familiar names on this Navy offense. These aren't new guys. These are guys that have been around. Brian Smith held this team to 10 points last year on like a bad Rice team. Like Brian Smith's defense held him to 10 points and 260 yards last year. So like this isn't something where he also has to learn how to defend the triple option. Like he has done this. I think to your point of every now and then you remind yourself like, oh yeah, Casey Keeler has done this a lot. He's made a conscious effort to keep telling you about this, that during their bye week, their get right week, they put triple option install in. Like they need time to get to that. That's something that if you're a first year coach that's never had to deal with a mid-season random triple option team, you might not be aware of. I think Casey Keeler's been through enough battles, been through enough wars to be forward thinking enough to see that. And with Temple, it's gonna be extra important because you're also playing Army very soon.
Yeah, he talked about the fact that what you're alluding to, I think, is that Casey Keeler said, hey, between Brian having some successful stuff that worked for him at Rice, and we had some successful stuff that worked for us when I was at Sam Houston that worked against Air Force, they feel pretty prepared for this game. Again, at no point have they been overly confident and, saying, oh, we're going to win, we're going to roll over this team. I don't think any coach would say that anyway, but I like their chances here. And we talked about the health of the team. So Caden Supernaut back this week at linebacker. He's going to be playing with a club on his hand. Luke Fry will be back after recovering from hand surgery. Javier Morton will be back after recovering from the sprained ankle. Aaron Beckwith is going to be back. Khalil Poteet is going to be back. We mentioned Sekou Kroma left the game. I think Casey Keeler said Monday that he had a shoulder injury last year, thought it might have been something similar, but it's just a strain. So they're pretty much as healthy as you could hope to be heading into this game. So I think
I exactly what you just said. I don't want to paint the picture that this is like a slam dunk. Temple's playing Buck now and they're going to win 56.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
I just think that people, if you're looking at this on paper and you're seeing a 5-0 team that's 8.5 or 7.5, whatever it's down to, point favorite, and you're thinking this is just, they beat UTSA and they're about to run to a buzzsaw. I don't see that. I really don't. So I think this is going to be another competitive game. And historically, I mean, homecoming competitive games, like we talked about one in 2021, Temple beat a Memphis team that was much better than it in 2021 off of that. I just think that this being a home game, this being homecoming, this is a good opportunity for Temple to show that this isn't just a same old Temple team.
If you are subscribed to owlscoop.com, you can get the entirety of Kyle's recruiting roundup, but give people a little taste of what they can expect.
I think at least 3, maybe 4. Temple commits had multiple touchdowns this last weekend. There's videos in the recruiting roundup. I think the names you're used to hearing are continuing to have monster seasons. But then some guys even further down the line that maybe haven't heard as much from also had big weekends. So subscribe.
All right, no on or around this date for this week's episode. We'll jump back into it next week. As he does each week, our friend Mike Greenspan of Greenspan & Greenspan Injury Lawyers provides you with a weekly tip to keep you safe on the road or in life. Again, he's the best injury lawyer you could hope to have, but Mike wants to make sure that you don't need his services. So here is Mike's weekly tip, and then we will hop into a very packed mailbag for this week's episode.
Temple fans, has this happened to you? You're late for an appointment or for work, and you're going by a yellow light, and the car in front of you is crawling. And you know that unless you tailgate that person, you're going to get stuck at the light, so you have a choice. Do you tailgate? Do you run the red light? Or do you suck it up and just wait and fume? It's happened to all of us. Here's the deal. As much as you want to tailgate that person and you're decidedly angry and justifiably so for that person crawling in front of you, take a breath, wait for the light to turn, and wait your turn and go in. And go when you have a green light. You'll thank yourself. Because why? It never fails. The one time that you're going to go through that light, that's not only when there's going to be a police officer there, but that's when somebody else who's going too fast is going to crash into you. You don't need it. You don't need that aggravation. So the next time you're coming up to that yellow light, think about it. Go Owls.
All right, loaded mailbag to get to this week. Again, very much appreciate everyone's interest and all the questions. The Owl of Broad Street on Twitter with a couple of questions here for us. When do we think the team will get healthy? I think we've talked about that already. They are healthy. No significant injuries. Knock on wood for them.
Yeah, what was the thing 2 years ago that didn't they start a different offensive line every single week for however many straight weeks?
Yeah, and it's been remarkable that the one injury they've had, and there's a Kevin Terry question later on here. I can't get used to the fact that they've started the same 5 guys every week. You can talk about the effectiveness of that. They're far from perfect offensive line, but yeah, it's markedly different.
Yeah, and then I think other than Kevin Terry on the offensive line, they've been pretty solid. And then defense, we talked about they're getting healthy.
Second question here from the Al Broadstreet on Twitter. Win prediction for the season after the Navy game.
I'm still at like 6 right now. Like right now, if they win Navy on Saturday, then I'm all of a sudden probably at like 7-5. But like
Yeah,
right now,
same for me.
I thought they were like a 5-7 team. They're a little ahead of schedule, I think. I think if they beat Navy, those are two teams that like UTSA beat them by 24 points last year. If they beat Navy, which beat them by 27 or 28 points, if they can all of a sudden turn that around and those are two huge swings in 1 year, then other than, yeah, sure, I'm sure Tulane's still going to be hard. North Texas is still going to be hard. Other than those two, I don't see anybody on the schedule that I'm like, well, they're definitely losing to that team. So, yeah, I'll stay at 6-6 right now. A guarded, optimistic 6-6.
I think if they beat Navy, they're a 7-5 team. I think that the Tulane North Texas games will be really tough. Not that any of these games will be, well, a couple of them could be easier, but I think if they beat Navy, they'll go 7-5. A couple of questions here regarding Brian Thornburg. He's the new Al Club hire, that main fundraising hire that Temple's been waiting for, the fans have been waiting for. So Casey Keeler's burner account. So Alec Boehm has a burner account that's been sending us questions, and then Casey Keeler has a burner account on Twitter.
Does Casey Keeler know what a burner account is?
No chance. Not a chance in hell.
0%.
Love to know who's running that account, but we'll never know. Brian Thornburg was officially hired today by Temple. What do you think was the holdup on finding the, quote, right person and bringing them on board? Seems like other schools did this months ago. And then Temple 2621 on our message board said, thoughts on the Brian Thornburg hire. Was this a hire to maintain the current status quo, or will he have the autonomy to push it? I mean, could they and should they have made this hire several months ago? Yeah, I mean, anytime you're without a chief fundraising officer for this position, it's not a good thing. Everybody knows this by now. They're not going to be Oklahoma. How many times we say it? They're not going to be, you see the revenue disparity between Temple and Oklahoma in the Power Four conferences, but you need to catch up to the Tulanes, your other peers. They're going to be competing against A10 schools in basketball who are doling out more in revenue share, including teams that are going to be scrimmaging, including other teams from lesser conferences. So what was the holdup in finding the right person? That's an Arthur Johnson question. Yes, have other schools tightened up a search like that in a much quicker fashion? Absolutely. Kyle, what are your thoughts on the Brian Thornburg hire? To be clear, we have yet to meet this guy.
Right. I can't say I'm scouting positions like this, right? Like, it seems at the very least like he's been in the atmosphere or in the industry atmosphere for a while now. I don't know firsthand how much experience he has dealing with an NIL shop or that type of rev share situation now anymore. So, I mean, I think anybody you talk to will tell you that college athletics in 2025 looks a lot different than fundraising in college athletics in 2019 and 2018. So I have no strong opinion one way or the other until this is like the definition of a results driven position. It will be clear as day on paper, was this a successful hire or not? And yeah, it's way too early days for me to have a strong opinion on it.
From a few people that we've talked to, he's not coming from like a Power Four program where he's had a ton of experience in the NIL space. Could he gain more experience in the NIL and rev share space and be effective? Absolutely. Hopefully we can get him on the pod at some point. We'd love to get him on as a guest, but Kyle and I have yet to meet him, but that's about all we have for you there. A second question from Casey Keeler's burner account. Will Cameron Stewart get draft looks? He's been very impressive thus far. Sure, why not? I mean, I think he's one of the guys that the pedigree is there. He was good enough to be a Big Ten recruit coming out of high school. I would struggle to say at this point if he would be doing this on October 7th. Is he a rookie, undrafted rookie, free agent? Probably. But, he's affected games. I mean, he affected the game. He applied pressure on fourth down. I don't think you could apply this to a lot of people on Saturday, but they don't win that game without him. I think he's playing the best football he's played since he got to Temple. So I think he'll get draft looks. Yeah, I think he'll be in the conversation. How he performs the rest of the season, and of course, how he tests, how he does on pro day, as you guys know, makes all the difference. But sure, I think he's got a shot. Is he a day one draft pick? No.
Has the frame, so far has the productivity. If he can keep it up over 12, 13 games, at the very least, that gets you in somebody's camp and then go from there. But I mean, he's 6'4", 250. Like, this isn't some undersized guy that all of a sudden is being productive. He's just finally getting a shot.
3 questions here from our friend Rockland Al off the message board. Number 1, do you expect Temple to attack Navy's secondary with downfield shots, or quick tempo at the outset.
I think the way I kind of took this is I looked at like what Navy does. They'll blitz, like they blitz on defense. So it really comes down to just if that offensive line can hold up and give Evan Simon time, then there's going to be opportunities to have one-on-ones with some honestly, quite frankly, some matchup that they should have advantages in.
Yeah.
Like if you can get Kajaya Hallway in space at his size, those 50-50 balls are all of a sudden closer to 70-30 balls. So like, yeah, I think ideally they'd like, hey, we'll keep our 5 guys and maybe a running back, and we'll give a perfectly clean pocket, and every time we'll be able to take his shots. But if there's any struggles on that, then it might just fall back to like just get him outside, get him in the flats, and go from there. So it all comes down, like most things in football, to the offensive line.
Question number 2 from Rockwell now. How would you evaluate the downfield blocking by Temple's receivers and tight ends to date?
I haven't been watching the all 22 of downfield blocking. It hasn't stood out to me. Honestly, it hasn't stood out to me one way or the other. So like when I think of like the big run plays this year, they're big plays like that are usually like I think of the Jay Ducker on the 1 yard line against UMass. He does get pulled back from behind, but like that's not really like blocking wasn't an issue there. The Hunter Smith Smith run didn't really need downfield blocking from the receivers that much. So I mean, it just really hasn't stood out to me as a glaring weakness. But I can't visualize like some great play where Xavier Irving is now gone or something like that made like a downfield block.
Question number 3, is this the game when Temple finally has a big punt return that is not called back because of what Casey Keeler charitably described as a 50-50 illegal block call in the UTS and Georgia Tech games? Could be. Casey Keeler very casually on Monday called JoJo Bermudez the best punt returner in the country. He has been fun to watch. Navy's 43rd nationally in punt return defense, so they're not awful. They're not great. I mean, they're closer to the right side of the middle of the pack, but I think JoJo Bermudez, you can see, you don't have to be Vince Lombardi to see that he can move, and all he needs is a small window. So yeah, absolutely, this could be the week. Last week would have been more so the week, and you could see it because UTSA's coverage units are dreadful. Navy's are better, but they're not top 5 or top 10 in the country. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think JoJo Bermudez is their best punt returner since Isaiah Wright. To be fair, it wasn't the biggest like jump to make, but like yeah, it's been about 7 years since you feel like you have a weapon back there.
Yeah. ProBetter4 on Twitter, a 2-part question. Men's basketball question. What is everyone's predicted starting 5?
Well, it's just you and me. Everybody left us.
Empty nesters again.
I think we just had this question maybe like a month ago, but
Yeah.
I'll say
wasn't it Gavin Griffiths, Darian Ford?
Yeah, I think maybe I had Darian Ford. Darian Ford, and Tobias, and Gavin Griffiths, Babatunde Dorodola, and I'm kind of on tape, but why am I blanking on the UIC point guard's name?
Jordan Mason.
I think CJ Hines is off the bench, and I think he leads in the scoring.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about the fact that we think that Aiden Tobias is going to be handling the ball a lot more. So now you have a couple of capable ball handlers. Jordan Mason is a more experienced ball handler, but Kyle's been talking for the last several weeks about how deep this team could be, and I agree with him. You know, CJ Hines has scoring experience, tournament scoring experience, so I think they're going to be a pretty deep team. That would be my starting 5 as well. Football question: is Stewart, the transfer linebacker from UMass, still eligible to redshirt for this season? He is not, right?
Yeah, so the only reason he was able to play this year is because the Vanderbilt quarterback, Diego Pavia, sued the NCAA saying my NJCAA year should not count against my NCAA eligibility. I'm not a lawyer, so if I'm speaking slightly out of term, then grant me a little bit of leeway. But I believe that the judge issues a stay saying, like, until we figure this out, everybody gets an extra year of eligibility that met that criteria, that played JUCO. Jalen Stewart played a year of JUCO as a full qualifier, which is why he was only in JUCO for 1 year before going to UMass. So this is it. Like, he either plays 2025 or he doesn't play, and his eligibility runs out one way there. That's me telling you this on October 7th, 2025. Anything could happen in the next 3 months. For all we know, the 5 years to play 5 seasons passes, and they also grandfather in people for A, B, and C. Like, I don't know. But as of right now, the expectation is that no, he will not be able to redshirt.
Next couple questions here from the screen. The Manicart from our message board. Tyler Walker, Temple's offensive coordinator, left the press box for the field, appeared to make a positive difference. Will he stay on the field or return to the press box? Good question. We did not ask Casey Keeler that on Monday. Don't know. Interesting question. If they feel it worked well, I could see him staying down on the field for another game. Be something interesting to watch, but a good question.
Yeah, I don't think that was the reason
Yeah.
that Hunter Smith all of a sudden breaks a big run.
Yeah, because they
Like,
were slow to they I mean, you could look at it and say they were really slow out of the gate in the first half. So
yeah.
you have two halves of football to look at. And did that have anything to do with the offense coordinator being on the field or up top? I don't really know.
Right. I can't tell you that we've talked to Tyler Walker about it, but my gut would tell me he probably starts up in the box. And then if things, because that's where he's comfortable with, that's where he likes to call plays, and if things start slowly again, then maybe you see him move back down.
Second question from Anacard. Who has a better chance of returning to the starting lineup on the offensive line, Kevin Terry or Luke Watson? I'm going to go on a limb and say Luke Watson, maybe. Now, again, Casey Keeler kind of dangled it out there. Like I said, hey, you guys didn't run block well. Then he said, I'm not going to tell you what was going on because I don't want to tip off Navy. I think the tackles have played a tad better than the interior offensive line. So maybe there's a point where Al Johnson says, hey, Luke Watson, go in and spell Jackson Pruitt or Eric King,
Right.
as opposed to Kevin Terry going in for Jacoby Hills, who, all things considered, has played okay. I think Diego Barajas has maybe had a last couple weeks haven't been great for him, but at the same time, they did respond in the second half. So my educated guess would be Luke Watson, but maybe there's a storyline where like they keep trotting the same five guys out there, and by week 9 or 10, that has really, really, truly paid off for them.
Yeah, I would agree just because the framing of the question, like it doesn't specifically say tackles. If it said who has the best chance to return to a tackle position, I'd say Kevin Terry. I think Luke Watson has more of the
Could play
flexibility.
both.
He could,
Yeah.
yeah, he could play guard, tackle. There was even that one time they thought about playing him at center potentially. So I think like he has the flexibility of like if they did want to make a change, maybe he's that guy.
Well, we'll look at Matt Deebs just real quick. Why would you bunt? Matt Deebs is a frustrated Phillies fan. I agree, Matt Deebs. I think 95% of the time things are not Rob Thompson's fault. Your best players have to hit. But yeah, I don't get the bunt decision, although you can call me a soft fan. I had turned off the game at that point, but I don't know why
Oh,
you bunt. I also don't know why you start Aaron Nola. I can't remember if we were talking about this. Were we talking about this on were we recording or was it beforehand? I don't, Ranger Suarez, I'm guessing, must be hurt. I don't know why you
yeah,
would
that was
start.
when I popped on. He had to be. He has to be into it because
Yeah.
otherwise, Aaron Nola is going to give up 5 runs in 2 innings, and then that'll just be the end of it. It's hindsight 2020. If Castellanos gets the third, people go look at Topper playing small ball, and they know they're just down one. That's old
Yeah.
school baseball. Like he got to third with one out, they should be able to drive him in. In the end, though, like Stott's not the best hitter in the world. You had 3 attempts that Castellanos is a decent enough runner that he should be able to score from second. I don't know. I'm not the biggest Rob Thompson guy in the world.
You guys have to hit, but yeah, last 24 hours have not been his finest. Lone Star 2000. Looking at Temple's remaining 7 American Conference games, which games are very likely a loss, which are very likely a win, and which are toss-ups?
I think right now there are 2 likely losses. Tulane and at North Texas to end the year feel to me like, look, Tulane's not Tulane of years past. Like they're not. I think Memphis and USF and maybe North Texas are the best teams in the conference. I think Tulane's like fourth. And you're getting them at home, so you could win that. But just for the sake of this argument, I'd say that's 2 likely losses. I think Charlotte and Tulsa, despite them being on the road, are 2 likely wins. Even though Temple does have to prove that they can go on the road in conference and win, but like those are 2 bad teams. And then I think every
Army.
other team on that schedule is up in the air, including Army. Like Army is not Army a pass. Navy,
Nope.
I think is we've talked about this is a bit of a paper tiger, and ECU still shows to me like they're not like this. You're getting them at home. ECU usually doesn't play that well at home at Temple. They're still a 3-2 team. They haven't beaten anybody. They lost NC State. Like I don't know. It's a toss up. Might be a toss up. Could be a 38 to 62% chance. Like you have a 38% chance of winning, but it's still a toss up.
I think you nailed it. Al Worldwide. Closing us out with a basketball question here. Last season ended in disappointment and drama, but Jamal Mashburn Jr. had arguably the best statistical season the Temple Owls had in 2 decades. He was one of, or if not the best individual Owls I've ever seen. What if Jamal doesn't get hurt? NIT conference run. Where does Jamal Mashburn rank among the most talented Owls since 2000? I can tell you, Kyle. I think you and I both talked to a couple people who had talked to. I believe. I'm almost positive Phil Martelli was on the NIT committee, and a couple people on the NIT committee were saying to people before his injury, like, yeah, we think Temple's an NIT team. So I think that the NIT was a possibility. Of
I know
course.
that probably pisses people off to hear because like you think like, oh, the resume is the resume. It shouldn't matter who's hurt, but like it does.
Yep.
Like if you're putting together a tournament, I don't want to bring Temple if they're not bringing Jamal Mashburn Jr.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, there was also if they had won that opening round, I think the expectation was that Mashburn was going to play in the conference tournament after that, if I recall correctly.
I don't truly know. I think he was always pushing it every day. I don't think he was ever
Yeah.
going to be 100%. But yeah, of course. I mean, losing him was devastating. And, fans can say all they want. Oh, that it was too much hero ball, but you're better with him than without him in the lineup. So I think anything would have been on the table, more likely an NIT run in the conference run. Where does Jamal Mashburn Jr. rank among the most talented Owls since 2000? Different position, but like I'm going to go with guys that got drafted. He's not as talented as, again, different position. Lavoy Allen, arguably one of the most talented, well-rounded big men that Temple has ever had. He always fought the motor thing. Could he have worked harder? But worked his way into the league as a second-round pick, stayed in the NBA for several seasons. Marty Collins got drafted. Is he Marty Collins? No, different type of player. Is he Deontay Christmas? Different kind of player. Where do you are we comparing him more to like a Quentin DeCozy, like a Shiz Alston?
No. I mean, Shiz probably sure. I think he's better than Quentin DeCozy. I think Quentin DeCozy is undervalued. I think people tend to like Obi Necchionia and Quentin DeCozy are two people I put up that like Temple fans look back at them as they were disappointments. They were very, very, very good college players.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, end of discussion. I think he's better than them. I honestly, I know he left on a bad note, and I know sometimes he was infuriating. The sample size is bad. I think Caleb Battle is up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd say Khalif Wyatt, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think I would go like Khalif. I'm more biased to the people I watch. I'd go like Khalif Lavoy. Then the next, slightly below that, I think Deontay, Caleb Battle, Jamal Mashburn Jr.
I'd go Khalif Lavoy.
I mean, I'll put Shiz in that same group.
Well, if we're saying since 2000, then you got to put.
He said last 20 years, so we're saying since 2005. So that's post Lynn.
Didn't he say where does Jamal rank among the most talented Owls since 2000?
In the last 2 decades, didn't he? Oh, since 2000. Okay.
Yeah. Well, then you got to put Lynn.
Then you got to put Lynn in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing it from like Marty on.
I put Lynn, Khalif, Deontay, and Lavoy in that upper crust first, and then the second in the first tier. If we were like talking about this, like we were talking fantasy football draft, that's my first tier.
Well, if we're talking fantasy, we're just talking stats. Then you got to put Mark Tyndale up there.
Yeah.
Filled the box.
Yeah.
Sean Marion like type guy. He would have filled the box where with a high draft pick in the early 2000s, mid 2000s NBA fantasy drafts.
Well, that'll do it for this week. Really, really appreciate all the mailbag questions, guys. Keep them coming. Help set the agenda for the show. We'll have another packed show for you next week. Could be talking about a 4-2 Temple football team. We'll see. First fissure in the works there where we were split on predictions. Kyle and I could be on the right side of history. Ryan and Colin could be on the wrong side of history.
I tend to be.
All right. Thanks for being with us, guys. We'll talk to you next week.